What if the most shocking moments in Game of Thrones weren't fantasy at all? What if the betrayals, the wars, and the world of Westeros itself were pulled directly from the darkest chapters of our own history? A feast of betrayal that ended in slaughter. A colossal wall of ice at the edge of the known world. Unstoppable horse lords who conquered continents. A bloody war for a crown that tore a kingdom apart. A secret fire that burns on water. And a city of assassins built on secrets and canals. The world of Westeros is closer to our own than you ever imagined. We're revealing the complete story. Watch our full 3-part series, The Real History Hidden Inside Game of Thrones, and discover the shocking truth. Did you know that some of the most shocking moments in Game of Thrones actually happened in real life? George R.R. Martin, the mastermind behind the series, drew heavily from the bloody pages of history to craft his epic tale. From treacherous betrayals to colossal walls, the real world is often more brutal and fascinating than fiction. So, if you thought Westeros was a dark and dangerous place, wait until you hear the true stories that inspired it all. Let's dive into the real history behind Game of Thrones. First up, the event that left us all speechless, the Red Wedding. In the show, it's a horrifying massacre orchestrated by the Freys and Boltons, wiping out a significant portion of the Stark family and their army. The real-life inspiration is just as chilling, and it's known as the Black Dinner of 1440 in Scotland. To understand why this happened, we need to look at the political landscape of 15th century Scotland. The country was in a state of turmoil. The young King James II was only 10 years old, and the kingdom was effectively run by powerful nobles vying for influence. The most powerful of these was the Clan Douglas, a family so wealthy and influential they were seen as a direct threat to the Scottish crown itself. The Chancellor, Sir William Crichton, and the Earl of Avondale, who were acting as regents for the young king, grew increasingly paranoid about the Douglases' power. They feared the clan was plotting to usurp the throne, so they devised a sinister plan. They invited the 16-year-old William, the 6th Earl of Douglas, and his younger brother David to Edinburgh Castle for a grand feast with the young King James. The invitation was a gesture of reconciliation, a promise of peace and friendship. The brothers, suspecting nothing, accepted. The feast began with all the pomp and circumstance you'd expect. There was music, food, and laughter. King James, just a child himself, was reportedly delighted to be in the company of the charismatic young earls. But as the feast neared its end, the atmosphere shifted. A single drum began to beat ominously in the great hall. Then, a servant entered carrying a covered platter. It was placed before the Earl of Douglas. When the cover was lifted, it revealed the head of a black bull, a symbol of death in Scotland. The Douglas brothers knew instantly they had been betrayed. They were dragged from the hall. Despite the protests of the young King James, who had grown fond of them, they were subjected to a mock trial, found guilty of treason, and immediately taken outside to Castle Hill and beheaded. The Black Dinner was a brutal act of political assassination, designed to cripple the power of the most formidable clan in Scotland. Sound familiar? George R.R. Martin took this act of betrayal under the guise of hospitality and amplified it into the unforgettable horror of the Red Wedding. Now, let's travel from a bloody dinner to a colossal structure of ice, the Wall, in Game of Thrones. The Wall is a massive fortification, 700 feet high and 300 miles long, built to protect the Seven Kingdoms from the wildlings and the mythical White Walkers. Its real-world counterpart, while not made of ice, is no less impressive. Hadrian's Wall in northern England, built by the Roman Empire starting in 122 AD under the order of Emperor Hadrian. This wall was the northernmost frontier of their vast dominion, stretching 73 miles from coast to coast. It wasn't just a simple wall, it was a complex military zone. It was built primarily of stone and turf, standing up to 15 feet high in some places, with a deep ditch, known as the Vallum, running alongside it on the southern side. Every Roman mile, there was a small fort called a mile castle, and between each of those, 2 observation turrets. This allowed for constant surveillance and rapid communication along the entire length of the frontier. Life for the Roman soldiers stationed here was tough. These men were auxiliaries, recruited from all corners of the Roman Empire from Syria to Spain. They weren't Roman citizens, but they served in the hope of gaining citizenship for themselves and their descendants after 25 years of grueling service. Their daily routine was a mix of patrol duty, training, construction, and guard duty, all while enduring the harsh, damp climate of northern Britain. They lived in barracks within the larger forts built along the wall, like Housesteads or Vita. Archaeological finds from these forts give us an incredible glimpse into their lives, from letters written on wooden tablets asking for warmer socks to remnants of their food and tools. But what were they defending against? Beyond the wall lay Caledonia, modern-day Scotland, a land the Romans never managed to conquer. This was the territory of various tribes the Romans collectively referred to as barbarians, such as the Picts. These were fierce, independent peoples who frequently raided Roman territory, testing the defenses of the wall. For them, the wall wasn't just a physical barrier, it was a symbol of an invading empire, a line drawn in the sand that they constantly challenged. So, while there were no ice zombies, Hadrian's Wall was very much a barrier between the civilized Roman world and the wild, untamed lands to the north, a concept that mirrors the purpose of the Wall in Westeros perfectly. From brutal betrayals at feasts to monumental walls dividing worlds, the threads of history are woven deep into the fabric of Game of Thrones. These real-life events remind us that the struggle for power, the fear of the unknown, and the shocking capacity for human cruelty are not just themes from a fantasy story, but enduring parts of our own past, and we're just scratching the surface. In our next episode, we'll explore the real-life figures who may have inspired characters like the cunning Tyrion Lannister and the ruthless Tywin. You won't want to miss it. Thanks for watching, and be sure to subscribe for more deep dives into the history behind your favorite stories. See you next time. Welcome back to our journey through the real history hidden inside Game of Thrones. In part 1, we uncovered the chilling true story behind the Red Wedding, the Black Dinner of 1440, and walked the ancient stones of Hadrian's Wall, the real-life inspiration for the wall in the north. If you missed it, the link is in the description below. Today, we venture east, across the narrow sea to the vast plains of Essos, and then back to the heart of the conflict in Westeros. We'll explore two of the most powerful and brutal inspirations for George R.R. Martin's world: the unstoppable horse lords of the Mongol Empire and the bloody dynastic civil war known as the Wars of the Roses. First, let's ride with the fearsome Dothraki. Their thundering hooves, their curved arcs, and their formidable chows like Drogo evoke a singular power from our own history. The Mongol Empire. For the Dothraki, the world is an open plain, and cities are stone prisons full of poison. Their entire culture is built around the horse. This is a direct reflection of the Mongols, a nomadic people who emerged from the harsh, wind-swept steppes of Central Asia. In the early 13th century, a leader named Temujin united the scattered Mongol tribes. The world would come to know him as Genghis Khan. Just as Khal Drogo united dozens of Khalasars into a single massive horde, Genghis Khan forged an unbreakable army from disparate clans, bound by loyalty and a shared vision of conquest. The Mongol military was a marvel of its time. Their warriors were arguably the greatest cavalry archers in history. Able to fire with deadly accuracy while riding at a full gallop, they could turn in the saddle, firing backwards at a pursuing enemy, a tactic known as the Parthian shot. This mastery of mounted warfare allowed them to dominate vast, open territories, much like the Dothraki dominate the grasslands of Essos. Their brutality was also legendary. Cities that resisted were often razed to the ground, their populations annihilated. This wasn't just mindless savagery. It was a calculated strategy of terror, designed to make other cities surrender without a fight. Compare this to the Dothraki sacking a city in the land of the Lozerine, taking what they want and leaving ruin in their wake. Both cultures were a force of nature, an unstoppable tide of horsemen that reshaped the world. Now, let's return to the heart of the Seven Kingdoms and the bloody struggle for the Iron Throne. The conflict between the Starks, Lannisters, Baratheons, and Targaryens feels so real because it is. Its roots lie deep in one of the most chaotic periods in English history, the Wars of the Roses. This wasn't a war over flowers, but a brutal 30-year conflict between two rival branches of the royal House of Plantagenet, the House of Lancaster, whose sigil was the Red Rose, and the House of York, whose sigil was the White Rose. Sound familiar? Lancaster and York, Lannister and Stark, the parallels are unmistakable. The conflict was ignited by a crisis of leadership. England was ruled by the Lancastrian King Henry VI. He was a pious but weak ruler who suffered from recurring bouts of severe mental illness, leaving him completely catatonic for long stretches. During these episodes, he was utterly incapable of governing. This power vacuum mirrors the reign of the Mad King Aerys Targaryen, whose paranoia and insanity plunged the Seven Kingdoms into chaos and sparked Robert's rebellion. With a weak king on the throne, ambitious nobles began to circle. Richard, Duke of York, had a strong claim to the throne himself and was named protector of the realm during one of Henry's spells of madness. This set the stage for a direct confrontation. And just like in Westeros, powerful women were at the center of the storm. King Henry's wife, Margaret of Anjou, was a fierce and ruthless political player, determined to protect her husband's crown and her son's inheritance. She was a brilliant strategist and a formidable leader of the Lancastrian cause. Many historians see her as a clear parallel to Cersei Lannister, a queen fighting tooth and nail to maintain her family's power and secure her son's place on the throne against a host of enemies. The war was a dizzying and brutal series of battles, betrayals, and executions. The throne changed hands multiple times. At one point, the Yorkist claimant, Edward IV, seized the crown, only to be driven into exile and replaced by Henry VI again, before returning to reclaim it once more. This constant back-and-forth bloodshed, where noble houses were pitted against each other and the kingdom tore itself apart, is the very essence of the War of the Five Kings in West. Families were destroyed, alliances shifted like sand, and the land bled for decades. From the unstoppable hordes of the steppes to the dynastic backstabbing in the halls of power, the history of our world is etched into the very fabric of Game of Thrones. Join us for our final installment, Part 3, where we'll uncover the terrifying reality of wildfire and the ancient superweapon known as Greek fire, and we'll sail to the free city of Braavos to uncover its surprising connection to the magnificent canal-filled city of Venice. You won't want to miss it. Thank you for watching, and be sure to subscribe for more journeys into the real history behind your favorite stories. We've journeyed through the blood-soaked halls of the Red Wedding, tracing its echoes back to Scotland's Black Dinner. We've stood atop the wall, feeling the chill of Hadrian's Roman frontier. We've ridden with the Dothraki hordes, hearing the thunder of Mongol hooves across the steppes, and we've watched the great houses of Westeros tear each other apart for the Iron Throne, just as the houses of York and Lancaster did for the crown of England. Welcome back to the final chapter of our journey into the real history hidden inside Game of Thrones. Today, we uncover the truth behind two of its most fascinating creations, a terrifying, unconquerable flame, and a city of secrets built upon the water. In the Battle of the Blackwater, we witnessed a vision of hell, a river of emerald fire, clinging to ships and men alike, a substance that not even water could quench. Tyrion Lannister's masterful defense of King's Landing wasn't just a fantasy creation, it was a page torn directly from the playbook of the Byzantine Empire. They called it Greek fire. For centuries, this liquid fire was Constantinople's ultimate weapon, the secret that kept the jewel of the East safe from countless sieges. Imagine the scene. Enemy fleets sail into the Golden Horn, confident in their numbers, only to be met by Byzantine dromongs, equipped with siphons. Suddenly, a torrent of flaming liquid erupts from the prows, spraying across the enemy ships. Panic ensues. The fire doesn't just burn. It sticks to wood, to sails, to flesh. Sailors who jump into the sea for safety find only more horror as the fire continues to burn viciously on the water's surface. It was a weapon of pure psychological terror. No one knew exactly what it was made of, and the Byzantines guarded the formula as their most precious state secret, passed down from one emperor to the next. The recipe, likely a mixture of crude oil, pine, resin, sulfur, and other volatile chemicals, was so closely guarded that, over time, it was lost to history forever. Just like the Alchemists' Guild in King's Landing, the modern world can only guess at the true composition of this legendary substance. Wildfire, the substance, as the pyromancers call it, is a direct tribute to this terrifying, lost weapon of the ancient world. Now, let's journey across the narrow sea, to a city unlike any other in the known world, a city of 100 islands, connected by stone bridges and winding canals, where there are no horses, only boats, a city of merchants, bankers, and assassins. This is Braavos, home of the Iron Bank and the Faceless Men, and its real-world counterpart is the equally magnificent and mysterious city of Venice. The history of Venice, the Serene Republic, begins not with conquest, but with survival. In the twilight of the Roman Empire, as waves of invaders swept across Italy, refugees fled to the marshy and hospitable islands of a lagoon in the Adriatic Sea. It was a miserable, muddy, but defensible location. On this unlikely foundation, they built a city that would one day rule the seas. They drove wooden pylons deep into the mud and clay, creating a stable base for their magnificent palazzos and churches, building a city that seemed to float on water, just as Braavos was founded by escaped slaves from the Valerian freehold seeking refuge in a remote lagoon. Venice was born from people fleeing destruction. Over centuries, Venice grew from a refugee settlement into a dominant maritime republic. Its power wasn't in vast lands, but in its vast fleet. Its merchant galleys and warships controlled the trade routes of the Mediterranean, making the city fabulously wealthy. This commercial empire was ruled not by a king, but by a doge, an elected official who served for life. Much like the Sea Lord of Braavos, the doge was a symbol of the state, but true power lay with the city's powerful merchant families and councils. And what is a commercial empire without money? The Iron Bank of Braavos, which holds kings and kingdoms in its debt, has its roots in the powerful banking systems that emerged in Renaissance Italy. Venetian and Florentine banks financed wars, propped up monarchies, and their influence was felt across all of Europe. The phrase, "the Iron Bank will have its due," reflects the very real power these early financial institutions held. But Venice, like Braavos, had a darker side. A city of canals is a city of shadows and secrets. It was a place of elaborate masks, decadent carnivals, and quiet political intrigue. Its government maintained a sophisticated network of spies and informants, and its infamous Council of Ten was known for dispensing swift, anonymous justice. It's no wonder George R.R. Martin placed his guild of shape-shifting assassins, the Faceless Men, in this city's fictional counterpart. The idea of a quiet, deadly power operating from the shadows of a labyrinthian city of water is pure Venice. Braavos is more than just an homage. It's a reflection of the spirit of Venice's city, born from defiance, built on water, powered by gold, and shrouded in secrets. And so our journey ends. From the highlands of Scotland to the canals of Venice, from the steppes of Asia to the shores of England. We've seen that the magic of Game of Thrones is not just in its dragons and prophecies. Its true power lies in its connection to us. It feels so compellingly real because, at its core, it is the betrayals, the lust for power, the brutal wars, the desperate fight for survival. These are not just stories, they are our history. Fantasy, at its best, doesn't create a new world out of nothing. It holds up a mirror to our own, reflecting the timeless struggles and triumphs of humanity. The greatest tales are the ones etched into the memory of the world, just waiting to be told again. Thank you for joining me on this incredible journey. Follow 4 more deep dives into the stories behind the stories.
Falar Morgulis.